thank you for having me up here again. The timing has been particularly good considering I was only up a couple of weeks ago and what I talked about was belonging and I had a lot to say. So how did we go with the challenge I set last time particularly about the one of not saying the word busy when people asked, how are you going? Or hi, how are you? Who actually made a concerted effort? You can big claim it, put your hand up. We're allowed to put our hands up with that kind of church. You are allowed to put your hand up. If you actually did, try really hard not to use the word busy. Okay, so sometime. Who felt when you said busy, you suddenly go, you felt a bit guilty. You go, I shouldn't have said that. Okay, we had a lot more of that. I know, it's the same. And I will still, sometimes it's something that just comes out so quickly that you just say it without even realising it. After the service the other week, Retta came up to me and said that she'd been challenged by not using the word busy a few years ago, and she hasn't. So if you're wanting, it just shows you that you can change your behaviour. If you're wanting some tips or tricks, go and see Retta. She'll happily encourage you in your quest to actually say what you've been doing. So thanks, Retta. It was really encouraging. Oh, good, I'm not the only one who's been thinking that. Okay. During the week, or actually a couple of weeks ago now, someone from work who was cleaning out their parents' house stumbled across the old Gregory Street directory. Who remembers those? Okay, now you can put your hand, putting up your hand, go, yeah, you aim it, you claim it. I know. So for you young'uns, that was pre-Google Maps. And if I say Google Maps too long, sometimes Google starts talking back to me. Pre-Google Maps. And it was the book you had in your car that showed you all the streets in Sydney, which was great and really helpful. Unless, of course, you wanted to get to Marrickville. Because Marrickville is one of those places where the streets you wanted were always in that top right-hand corner that went across 4 different maps and took 15 pages. You would get so lost having to find your way to Marrickville. I hated it. My sister lived there for a little while and I was so glad when she moved to Redfern. Easier to find. So Google Maps superseded the street directory and is probably the one thing in technology that actually has been a huge help and a huge encouragement, and you know where to go. I was so thankful that when we were in America about 10 years ago, we hired a car and drove from Boston to Orlando. And Google Maps was a godsend. It really, really was. Except, of course, when we first got in the car at Boston Airport and you had to drive around underground. Google Maps does not work underground. It may do so now, but 10 years ago, it didn't. We drove around in circles for a good half an hour. Went through the same toll booth 3 times. We said to the lady, look, can we pay? Do we have to pay again? She goes, yeah, sorry. I said, well, can you give us directions on how to get out? Which she did. I'm only really thankful that it was Easter Sunday we were doing this and there was not one other car on the road. Can you imagine that? That doesn't happen in Sydney. Boston is a major city. We were the only car driving around. I couldn't believe it. But it got us out. And once we got up above and we started heading south, we were driving away. We were driving along. Everything was fine. And occasionally, because you're driving on the wrong side of the road and you're nervous, you'd take a wrong direction. You'd take a wrong turn or you'd miss a turn. And Google Maps would say, in a slightly condescending voice, recalculating, as it would pull us onto a new route. And then we'd carry on and we'd kind of get on our merry way to get to our destination that we wanted to do. And it got me thinking about what I'm actually talking about here today. I'm talking about belonging through transition, or more about belonging when life changes, when life has to recalculate and you're beginning to think that you're not really sure that you actually belong because things in your life have changed. That's where I'm wanting to land today. It's a bit different from what we talked about last week. I wanted to pray before we start. So, let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to come up and speak, Lord. This idea of belonging is really important and we need to know how we fit and where we do. Lord, I pray that you will open our hearts to hear today. Let it sort of seep into what we're thinking and what we're feeling, to give words to those things and help us to make good choices. In Jesus' name, Amen. So just to recap, just because for those of you who weren't here, you missed, sorry, you can catch it online, it's all right. I did watch it online just to see. After about 5 minutes, I got embarrassed and turned it off. So it's okay, it happens. I was in Goulburn at the time, so I was like, had nothing else to do, but still. Okay, so the first thing I talked about was that as humans, we have a very, very deep need to belong. And for thousands and thousands of years, if you didn't belong to a group, then you had less chance of survival. That you needed the group to help provide you with food, you needed the group to help provide you with safety, and also, so now that in our modern world, we don't need it that bad. We can go into the supermarket and buy our own food, and we can go and build a house that's nice and safe and not likely to get broken into and not likely to get hurt. So we don't need the group like we did for for most of humanity. But we still have that strong sense that we need to be able to connect to someone, to know that people will actually hear us and listen to us, that we have value. And that's really important, that we find a place where we have value. And I talked about 3 different things. The first one was about individualism, about how our society really pushes the idea that you are the individual, you are the most important person in the world. You are the one, you need no one. You don't need anybody else. You can do it yourself. And the more you can do it yourself, the more prouder you should be. This is the message we're told. Like, we don't have to go and, we don't grow our food in the backyard. We don't have a cow there that we go and get milk and churn butter. We go to the supermarket and we pay. If our plumbing backs up and we need to have the drains cleared, we don't do that unless you're a plumber. But we have to pay someone to come in. If the car breaks down, we go to a mechanic. So we're very fortunate that we have enough money that we can go and find people to do this. So we actually don't necessarily need people. But what that does is that it really reinforces the idea that I don't need another person. I don't need help. But we actually do. We do need help. We need support. We need encouragement. We need to know that someone's there in our corner backing us up, being there to support us, to cheer us on, to cry with us, or just to sit and just be comfortable. The second one I spoke about was technology. Now, it's amazing. Google Maps, already claimed that one. That one's a no-brainer. But being able to talk to people around the world is an absolute blessing. If you have family and friends who live far away, being able to connect to them and see them is just like, it's one of the key things on technology that's really helped to keep people and families knowing what's happening in each other's lives rather than having just to wait months for letters. But it also disconnects us to the people who sit right beside us or who are behind us or in front of us right now. We can know what they had for lunch, but we don't know that a couple of hours before they had a call from the school saying that there's problems with their kids and they need to have a meeting. Or we don't know that in the afternoon they got a call from the doctor saying, you need to come in, the results we need to talk about. You don't know that. So technology is great in one respect, but in another, it actually disconnects us. And the third one, which I've already talked about, was busyness, and how I wanted to encourage you not to use the word busy, because using that devalues what you actually do. So I said that, rather than say you're busy, say, oh yeah, I've had to, my mum's not doing so well, we've got to, get some tests done to see what we're going to do into the future. Or I'm being the unpaid Uber driver, and right now Macca's drive-through is my best friend. Everywhere we go, I'm an Uber driver, and then we go via Macca's. Or totally smashed at work. Got a deadline coming, and there's a few issues that were cropping up. Or that things have been going really well at work, and you've actually had a big success. That works. Or even if it's the really mundane things like we had to mow the lawn, didn't we, Mr. Mgbemene? Our lawn was getting way too long. We lost our dog in the backyard. It's only a small dog, but there was a couple of times when we did. So when you can go, yeah, I mowed the lawn, you feel a bit proud of yourself because you can see the labours of your work. When we say what we do, when we give value, that we're saying that we're actually connected to people, we have responsibilities and opportunities. it's not just a vague sense of exhaustion. And I just want to listen to that for a little bit. We have busyness with that vague sense of exhaustion. That's what happens. We feel exhausted, but we don't know why. And you just go, oh man, I'm just so tired. I'm just going to go and sit down and watch Netflix for 3 hours and binge watch. I'm so busy. That vague sense of exhaustion just comes over us. But when we say, I mowed the lawn, I hung out with my mum, I caught up with a friend, I had to do a few extra hours at work, we know why we're busy. We know why we're exhausted. So that was a really, I think, a light bulb moment for me when I thought about that. What I'm going to talk about now is, hold on a minute, I'm going to cough, think, is about how do you do so we talked about those 3 parts of belonging and those things that can stop us from feeling like we belong. Today I'm going to focus on what belonging looks like through transition. When life has changed or life is recalculating and we're having to find a new normal. Seasons are a word that we use in church and also out there, but a lot of we use the word seasons in church to describe the different phases of life that you're going through. Oh, I'm in this season of change. I'm in this season of work, or I'm busy season at church. We're going through a season of transition. And I'm not saying that this sermon, because of the reason why we're looking for a senior pastor, this sermon and what I'm going to say has been something that I could have said a year ago or 5 years ago. Because we all go through times of change in our life. And when we do go through times of change, we can feel like that we don't belong as much. And I wanted to unpack what that looks like. So some seasons allow you to give more time to church. Some seasons allow you that you can't give as much time. It means you haven't stopped loving Jesus. It means you haven't stopped loving church. And there might be a little bit of feeling inside you of sadness because you can't give what you did before. And you don't really know why. It's very subtle. And sometimes, when this has gone on for a little bit, you can feel like you're starting to drift. You're starting to think, do I really still belong? The first time when I was reflecting and thinking, and I've thought about this a while ago, was way back when I was at uni and I was a youth leader. I loved being a youth leader. It was great. I loved the Friday nights. I loved planning. I loved hanging out with the leaders during the week, doing Bible study with them. It was great. I loved that you would, it was a big group because it was a big youth group. There were lots of us. You'd go for a drive for 2 hours just to get ice cream. And, there's 4 cars, and when you hit, you come to a red light, everyone jumps out, swaps cars and gets back in. And then you do it again, the next set of traffic lights. Oh man, the things you could do in the 90s. Don't do it now, young people. The young people have gotten quite young over here. I don't like it. They're looking very mature. They've suddenly grown up. Yeah. And they've said to the hairdresser, yeah, can you give me a bit of grey? I'm liking that. So, and the young people turn up and go, well done. Okay. So this was what I really loved it. It was great. I knew I had a strong sense of belonging. I knew I fitted. I knew I was important. And I knew I had value, which was the key. Life happened. We all started to graduate. We all started to get jobs, which took a lot more time. We didn't have the same time to do youth group, to hang out as much. The group started getting smaller and smaller and smaller until it was just barely 1 car full. It went from being like 4 or 5 cars or more to 1. And I found myself starting to drift. I found myself not turning up as often. And I started to think, and I started to find other things to do. And I came to a point after a couple of years, I thought, I think I need to change churches. Now, I don't say that lightly, because for me, changing churches was a big thing. I'd grown up pretty much all my life going to St. Paul's, and it was my home. I had a really good grounding. I knew the Bible. I knew God. I knew I had really a strong understanding, and I was really not sure about moving. But when I had started to drift, and I thought, I'm not sure I belong, there was 2 reasons why I left. And it came down to that I was trying to make new friends. I was trying to join different Bible study groups, and I just found I wasn't fitting. That people, if they said, well, who's Shannon? What's she like? Well, what's Shannon? Well, tell me about Shannon. Who's she? Oh, yeah, she's a crossfire leader. Oh, yeah, she's a, yeah, this. And they would start to rattle off a list of attributes of what a crossfire leader was, which is all good and well, but I'm like, I'm more than that. I'm not all of those things, and I'm subtle changes. So that they didn't know me for who I was. They just knew me for the role I did. And I wanted to be known for me. And the second thing was that I was wrestling with things of God. I was wrestling with Scripture. I knew God up here, knew him very well up here, but I needed to know him here. I was asking uncomfortable questions. In Bible study or when we were praying, I would share a picture I had. And when it was finished, people would look at me strangely. Like this morning, Paul shared a picture that he had in prayer about a big library with lots of books everywhere. And God, and all the books were listed, all the names of the different churches, and God was going. And he described this picture. And it so describes what's happening here. Like it hit the mark. And he could have said, yeah, God's got it. He's making a few changes. He's making us new. That's what he could have said. But he put it in a picture. And it was amazing. And when I did that, people would look at me weird and go, well, we don't do that here. And we don't even want to talk about tongues. We just don't even go there. So I was having these questions, these things that I was wrestling with, and I wasn't getting answers and I wasn't feeling like I fitted. So I did decide to change. And I turned up at another church in Borkham Hills, which I just thought was some slightly charismatic church. Turned out it was Anglican as well. I thought that they had just, were hiring the church and the green prayer books were just left over in the pews. No, it was a church that I felt belonging in. 4 weeks of being there, we went on a camp, and the assistant minister said to me that, he goes, Shannon, oh man, it's really good, you've really fitted in. What's it been, 9, 10 months? And I said, no, it's been 4 weeks. Like it literally was 4 weeks, and I felt like had been there forever. There was a sense of coming home. So I knew that this was the right move for me. I will talk a little bit more about our moves and when we decide to move and change churches a bit later on, but that's worked for me at the time. And as I think about throughout my life, the different changes of whether we have been getting married and changing churches because we moved house and moved locations, I can see there is, like, not so much when we move house or not when we changing churches, not that one. It's more when life changes. My life changed, and I can look back and see the patterns of that. As life changes, you don't necessarily feel as you do as belonging, as connected. So there are different seasons in our life. It doesn't mean that as those seasons change that we have less belonging. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, for everything there is a season and a time for every activity under heaven. So I forgot to say, whenever you hear me say a Bible verse, that's up on the screen. Okay, cool. Excellent. All right. So every season, each season has its own capacity for belonging. Each season involves a different level of how we can connect. Now, I see 2 different types of transitions, okay? I see the first one when your life changes. You get a new job, you get married, have children. You find your parents are needing more support. They're getting older. Your priorities have changed, and that's okay. We have to do that. There are seasons when your family and your work need you more than being here every week or serving on a team or going to a table group or connect group every week. It's fine for those responsibilities. It's more than fine. That's what we are meant to do. It doesn't mean that you've stopped belonging. This is where you have to get your head to talk to your heart. Okay? Your head has to say, I still belong in this place because this is God's house and I belong no matter what. So you may not feel like it. You may feel a bit disconnected because you haven't found that you haven't been to Connect Group, or you've had to pull back from serving in a ministry because family have taken a greater priority. Your parents have taken more of your time. You still belong. But eventually, that life settles down. You find a new rhythm. You find that, okay, we've got a system happening, it works. I can now start to come to a Connect Group, or I can start to serve. I may only be able to serve once a month or once every 6 weeks, but it's better than what I was before. And that's okay. So that's one way of one form of transition. The second way, is when your life has not changed at all. It hasn't. Nothing in your life has changed. It's the same as it has been for the last couple of months, couple of years. But it's other people's lives have started to change. They're not around as much because they've got kids that need ferrying around. They've got elder parents that need support. They've changed jobs and that demands more of their time. But you don't realise that because you've just turned up and the people you would hang out with aren't there anymore. Or your Connect Group hasn't met in a couple of months. We might have had that one, mightn't we? A few times. Some of us might know that one. That happens. Just life has happened and you haven't been able to connect. Being aware of how life has changed for other people can impact how our sense of belonging. Being aware of it means we can go, oh, I see what's happening. Right. Which leads into your two options. Oh, hold on. Which leads into 3, 4. Okay. You have two options when that happens. Okay. When someone else's life has changed and you're feeling disconnected, option 1, you start to drift. You start to think, I'll just miss a Sunday. No one's going to notice. And then you go, oh man, it's just so warm and cozy in bed. Oh, it's cold outside. And there goes another Sunday. You start to kind of pull back and don't put yourself on the roster for a particular ministry you might be involved in. When you do come to church, you feel that a bit more disconnected. You feel that chasm seems to have grown. You feel a bit more, I'm not really sure. It kind of, this depth and this width has started coming across between you and other people at church. And then you think about, do I really belong here? Is this the place where I fit? And you go, well, no one's really coming up to me. No one's really talking to me. I don't really feel like I fit anymore. I'm not really sure I can serve. Maybe I need to change churches. And there will be times when that is a good option. But before you do that, I want you to consider option 2. And that's where you choose to belong. You acknowledge the reason why you're feeling like you're not connected. You're feeling like you don't belong anymore. And you go, okay, right, well, I'm going to have to do something about that. I'm going to maybe go up to someone that I've seen around for a while, but I've never actually had a chat to more than just saying a few pleasantries. I'm going to actually press in and have an extended conversation. I'm going to, instead of leaving straight after church or hanging around for the first 10 minutes, I'm going to stay until they kick me out. Well, maybe not that long. I might actually stay and invite someone, to go out for coffee. I might decide to join a different group, to join a group. And there are plenty of groups. You may go, okay, and the non-committal ones, the really easy ones to do, are the ones like the men's table group that happens on a Wednesday. Or creative connections. You may not want to have anything creative. You just want to turn up and have a cup of tea and a Tim Tam and just chat. And that's all that you can do. And they're easy ways to come in. Going to young adults on a Tuesday night is an easy way to begin to feel connected. You're just turning up and you're just making a friend. You're just chatting. That's all that you need to do. And that is amazing. And that's the first step. And that's all it's just a one little step. One Wednesday night. One Tuesday night. And then that becomes another and becomes another. And over some time, you begin to feel like you belong. You've found your place. You've found your people. And that's really important. But being aware of what's happening right now helps you make those decisions. But when we talk about belonging, when we talk about it, I've talked about what you can do. But there is something far, far deeper than what you can do by turning up on a weeknight on another thing or hanging out after church. Something that goes beyond that, no matter what we do. It's easy for us to think and to believe that belonging is because we serve on a team, we go to a connect group, or we just happen to know lots of people. It deepens our experience, yes. But the foundation of belonging is nothing to do with that. And it has everything to do with what Jesus has already done. We don't belong because we've earned a place. We belong because he has given us a place. Ephesians 2:19 says, "You are no longer foreigners and strangers, but fellow citizens with God's people, and also members of his household. Through Jesus, we are no longer outsiders. We are not the hired help. We are not just some person wandering past. We are part of his family. We are connected because of him. He came to us before we came to him." Romans 5 says, "God demonstrated his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." Before we had anything to offer, God sent Jesus down into this world so that we could find a place with him. When we truly understand that we have been welcomed into God's family by grace, it changes the way we see other people. We stop asking ourselves, "Oh, do they fit? I'm not sure if they're kind of our people." No. We start to go, "Actually, they fit. How can I make them feel belonged? How do I make them feel welcomed?" I love how this church says, and has like a motto, is that this is a place for you to belong while you work out what you believe. That was what I was looking for way back when I was in my early 20s. I was looking for a place to belong while I worked out what I believed. So when you choose and when you're thinking, do I stay or do I go? This is a place where we can sit with you in that. We can help you in that. I wasn't. Okay. It is a place. We don't expect you to have it all figured out. Not at all. It's messy. And I will say, and I'm sorry, Ian, I might kind of not let him out of the bad, but say that one of the candidates who were applying for this said that he was really interested in that concept of, well, how does that work? How does that work? Because in his mind, he's like, I really like the idea, but I've never really thought of it like that. This came through that this is with outsiders, ministers who are considering coming into this church are liking that, but they're not sure how it works. And we don't know, we just work it out as we go along. But that's okay, because I'm good with that. Having an experienced grace, we can see that we feel, that we know that we are here, that every person who walks through these doors, that they are seen, that they're valued, they're loved, and they're invited to be part of this place. So to sum up, I want you to think about which group of people you're in, okay? There's 4 groups. Are you in the group where you've just sort of started coming along? You've come here, you've been here a few times, or you've been here, you could have even been 6-9 months. You're liking, you come, you hang out afterwards, you're starting to get to know people. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. We are all so glad you're here. Stay. Think about the next step that you can take to belong, or to feel like you belong, and to then take that to the next step. You might be in the second group where your life is in transition, where your life has changed. You have greater responsibilities with family, with work. That's okay. I am not saying you need to do more. Absolutely not. No, not at all. I'm saying that you need to tell people, let others come along beside you to say that we're here to help. You're part of this family, and we can hear, how can I help? That's a good thing. We put aside the individualism. Oh no, I don't need any help, I'm fine. I don't need to tell anyone what's going on in my life. No. Part of being part of a family is sharing the good things and the crappy things. Your capacity may have changed, but your place in God's kingdom, in this house, has not changed. Allow others to support you. If you're in the third group, the left behind group, and I don't mean the books, all right, because we're all there, the ones that have been drifting, the ones where you think, oh, I'm not quite sure I fit. Not because anything's changed in your life, but because the people that made you feel connected aren't around as much. Then I ask you, and I encourage you to go, okay, I see what's happening now. Today I'm going to take a step towards community. I'm going to take a step towards chatting with someone for a bit longer than 5 minutes. I'm going to start a conversation and invite someone out for coffee. If you're in the fourth group, you're the ones who are feeling, totally feeling like I belong. This is my place. This is my place. These are my people. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly where I fit, and it's good. It's amazing to be in that space. It really, really is. Keep on doing what you're doing. Be encouraged. Know that what you're doing now is having an impact on other people and helping them feel involved. And that's a good thing. Keep doing it. Keep your eye out for people who are feeling like they're drifting. Follow up people who you haven't seen for a week or two. Send them a text. Better still, use your phone and call them. I know, even young people, the phone does work when you talk to someone, okay? Not just through text. Before I finish, I want you to know that no matter where you are in that step, where you are in that kind of belonging through transition, before you came to this church, before you joined a group, before you started to serve, you belong to Jesus. You belong to the kingdom of God. He is your Father. This is your family. Nothing is going to take that away. I love the story that I heard a little bit a while ago, and it's about the thief on the cross. And it was that he said, no, Jesus, remember me after this. Jesus says, yeah, sure, mate. A couple of hours pass, he shuffles off this mortal coil. He turns up at the gates of heaven, and there's St. Peter saying, okay, why do you think you should, why should we let you in? Why are you here? What church did you go to? He goes, I didn't go to church. Okay, well, did you go to one of those kind of like home churches that have non-denominational things, kind of the early church type things? No, didn't go to that. Well, were you a good person? I says, well, did you see how I died? He goes, well, I was a thief. Okay, good point. All right. Were you stealing bread to feed starving families? He's like, nah, mate, sorry. I was kind of holding up doing armed robbery to the Roman treasury. You might have seen one or two of the guards come through before me. He's like, oh, man. So I think you might be in the wrong place. why do you think you're here? And the thief says, because the man on the middle cross said I could come. That's all. Accepting Jesus, believing in him, means you belong, no matter what happens. The man on the middle cross said you belong. Among anything else, you belong. Thank you.